Hello, I'm CJ Wellerman. Don't forget to subscribe to our show. Now let's get into it. Zionism is not only expanding throughout the Middle East, but also into the heart of Islam, Saudi Arabia. And a word of warning, this is not a drill. Creeping Zionism is real and should fire off alarm bells for every Muslim across the world. The areas marked in blue on this map is what Zionists believe to be the entirety of their biblical homeland. You're now watching Israeli government officials open a new Israeli embassy in the Arab Gulf country of Bahrain on September 4th. It's therefore never been more urgent to understand the ultimate goals and achievements of Zionism in the Middle East. But let's start with the fact that it's an ethno-nationalist ideology that endorses and encourages the supremacy of Jewish migrants and culture over indigenous Arab populations. Zionism fueled the Palestinian Nakba in 1948 and the illegal annexation of the Palestinian territories in 1967, along with the theft of the Golan Heights from Syria that same year. Zionism is why 7 million Palestinians remain stateless today, after being forcibly displaced from their homes for the past 75 years. But for Israel, the Zionist colonial project remains unfinished. To complete the project, Israel seeks normalization and legitimacy from the Arab and Muslim world. I mean, sure, it already normalized relations with the United Arab Emirates, Morocco, Bahrain, and Sudan. But these countries mean little to most of the world's Muslim population, which is why the Zionist state is desperate to lure Saudi Arabia into its embrace. You see, Saudi Arabia is the heartland of Islam because it's the birthplace of Prophet Muhammad and home to Islam's two holiest sites in Mecca and Medina, which grants the Saudi government an inordinate amount of influence over the Muslim world. For this reason, Israel is pushing the United States hard to pressure the Saudi regime into normalizing relations with the apartheid Zionist state.
The Israelis believe, whether rightly or wrongly is irrelevant, that if they can get the land of the holy mosques, the land of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the land of Mecca and Medina, to come out and say, we recognize the legitimacy of Israel over the lands that it has taken from the Palestinians, then the Israelis will turn around and say, look, the followers of your Quran, the followers of Islam have said that we are legitimate, that these lands we took, we didn't take them illegally, that they've recognized us now. And Israel believes that if Saudi Arabia normalizes, the Islamic element of the issue gets put to bed. I think they're wrong in this, but they believe that Saudi Arabia would be the end of this idea of Islamic Palestinian cause.
What you just heard was a perfect summary of exactly what the Zionist state hopes to achieve through Saudi normalization. Israel aims to strip the Islamic solidarity element away from the Palestinian liberation cause, which will leave the Palestinian people isolated and adrift, leaving them forever at the mercy of their Zionist overlords. Clearly, this is another dangerous and desperate moment for the Palestinian people, given Saudi Arabia is the biggest prize in the Muslim world. Therefore, if normalization happens now, then there will be zero leverage or incentive for Israel to ever accept Palestinian statehood, especially when the international community is unwilling to ever hold Israel accountable or create any consequences for its criminal occupation. But before we go on, we urgently need your help to counter injustices in the Muslim world, and we can't continue this effort without you. So please consider supporting my journalism at patreon.com/CJWerleman. Our program is made possible only because of the support we receive from our wonderful patrons. Please join them in helping me bring these stories to a wider audience. Thank you. Now back to our show. The Saudi government stands to gain much from the potential deal with Israel, particularly Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who will attain more money, prestige, US weapons, and Israeli surveillance technologies, while also securing a NATO-like security guarantee from the United States and a green light for his nuclear ambitions.
Saudi Arabia is expected to seek American support for a civilian nuclear program, a defense pact similar to NATO with Washington, and less restrictions on arms sales to the kingdom. Saudi Arabia could also request Israel make concessions towards the Palestinians.
But the Saudi government will do little to gain a significant win for the Palestinians, because anything meaningful or substantive has zero chance of gaining approval from the extremist Israeli government, which has vowed to formally annex and ethnically cleanse the Palestinian territories. So it should be patently obvious that the Saudi government should normalize the Zionist regime and welcome it into the Middle East on one condition only: that Israel ends its criminal occupation of the Palestinian territories full stop. But that's not going to happen, because the Saudi and Zionist regimes have become inseparable, having carried out clandestine and semi-open relations with each other for several years now. The growing influence of Zionism in the heartland of Islam is plainly obvious to those who have been paying attention. We've seen Saudi companies partner with Israeli firms, and in July we saw the Israeli national anthem played at a FIFA esport tournament in Riyadh. And we've also seen Israeli journalists enter Mecca, even though the holy sites are strictly off limits to non-Muslims.
I was here in Mecca. The dream came true.
Although the Israeli man's stunt outraged the Muslim world, it was ignored by Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler, because he has informally opened the country's door to Zionism under the auspice of de facto normalisation.
Certainly there's been an unprecedented drive towards normalization. In that I mean we've seen that Israeli teams are now able to enter Saudi Arabia with Israeli passports to participate in sports events such as the Dakar Rally, which in 2021, we saw the Israeli flag and the national anthem being raised at the eSports International event or eSports World Cup only a few months ago. We're recording this in August 2023, but we saw the Israeli national anthem being played. We saw Israeli official delegations or unofficial delegations in Medina recording themselves saying they're planting the tree again in Medina. That doesn't happen without government consent.
We also know Mohammed bin Salman welcomed Netanyahu and the head of Israeli intelligence agency Mossad to Saudi Arabia in November of 2020. But MBS denied the visit took place, which shows you how he has something to hide. But the visit was confirmed later by leaked Israeli reports.
Now, to a story with conflicting reports. Saudi authorities are denying reports in Israeli media that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu secretly flew to Saudi Arabia on Sunday in what would be the first trip by an Israeli premier to the kingdom. He's reported to have met Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
Now think about everything that has happened within Saudi Arabia since Netanyahu's visit 3 years ago. Well, the Saudi government has scrubbed schoolbooks of anything that's critical of Israel, which means Saudi children are being taught the twisted Zionist version of history on Palestine. And all the while MBS has jailed and executed Islamic scholars, clerics and activists, because MBS aims to put Saudi nationalism over and above Islam.
The first target was Salman al-Auda, a renowned Muslim scholar with a large social media following. In the early hours of September 10th, he was arrested from his home and accused of inciting people against the kingdom's rulers. Since then, dozens of professors, preachers, lawyers, women's rights activists, economists, business people, and journalists have been locked up as the crackdown grew wider.
Under MBS's rule, Saudi Arabia is moving away from its Islamic heritage and moving towards becoming a quasi-European state, which mirrors the way Israel sees itself in the region too. This explains why Riyadh is looking more and more like Tel Aviv than other parts of the Muslim world.
Just a few years ago, all this would have been illegal. Public entertainment was banned, and unmarried men and women were not allowed to socialize.
Saudi Arabia, for all the time that I've known it, until about the last 5 or 6 years, has been a society where public space was ruled by religious police. What I found so hard to grapple with was just how normal it all felt. I don't understand how you can live with one set of values and then supplant them with another as if nothing had really happened.
As custodian of Islam's holiest sites, Saudi Arabia holds a unique leadership role in the Muslim world. But MBS is essentially putting distance between the Palestinian liberation cause and the rest of the Islamic world by moving his country further away from its Islamic roots. You see, Islam has been a rallying call for Muslims against the criminal Israeli occupation of Palestine and Islam's third holiest site, Al-Aqsa Mosque. Tragically, however, the Saudi Crown Prince would rather make friends with the United States and Israel, because they offer him greater power and prestige. This is how Zionism has taken root in Islamic heartland. This is how the dream of Palestinian liberation dies. And this episode is another reminder for why we must give our full-throated support to the Boycott Israel campaign. Change won't happen from corrupt leaders of Muslim countries, but from us, ordinary people, who can starve the Zionist enterprise economically by boycotting its products, sporting teams, and cultural events. Anyway, that's my time for today. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we kindly ask you please support our effort to expose and confront injustices in the Muslim world by becoming a member of this show at patreon.com/CJ Wellerman. We can't produce, sustain, and grow the show without your help, and we offer exclusive benefits to those who do. But for now, good night, good morning, wherever you are, and stay blessed.